recording here. So I'm sorry. So with Kingsburg, which one in particular, I was talking to them because that's what we thought. And then we found out, no, you can't do that. If they determine that you have to lift the house, you have no choice whether or not you were going to add a mortgage, if you waived having flood insurance, etc. They could still require you to lift the house. Now, they're changing the rules now, if I understand it correctly, and this is apparently pretty common in these areas, just in case anybody gets involved in those kind of properties, that if you're going to do 51% of the value in renovation, then you'll have to lift the house. Now, the 51% is set by the town. So the code and building officials will be the ones who determine. Let's say Julie's doing a house there, and it's a $100,000 house, and the town determines that it will take in rehab renovation $51,000 to get it in habitable condition. They can require Flo to lift that house. If she is below the 51%, then she will not have to lift the house. And that 51% has a 10-year time frame. There was a family, a couple, they bought the house. The town determined, I think it came into around 48, 49%. So they were good. Well, let's say, I forget how many years in, but let's say year 5. They decided to do an improvement, which kicked them over the 51%. So then the town came to them and said, you have to lift the house. This was told to me by one of the town inspectors. I thought, oh boy, that was a good lesson though. So you're at their mercy. I said, okay, well, how do you guys determine 51%? And at the time he said, it's open to interpretation, and that always scares me. I actually have an inspection tomorrow, and I always dread when I have to meet with inspectors. Some of them are really cool, other ones, and I'm not sure how it's going to go tomorrow, and I dread it. And there are inspectors, gang, and there are inspectors. You guys have been doing it for a long time, know what I'm talking about. I like a town, even if they're tough, it's okay with me as long as they give me the list of what they want done. Let's say they come out and they go, okay, give me the list, have a form or whatever. This is what we want done for you to get to pass. We're failing you for this, and this is what we want done. Okay, fair enough. I have no problem with that. I don't like the towns where you go in and they'll just verbally start telling you things. And you say, well, can you at least put it in writing so I know, so I'll do what you want? And they say that's not their job.
Well, that's the easy part, because what you can do is when you go with the inspector, bring a pencil and a pad with you. So when they say something, you write it out. That's what I do. And then my notes match whatever their report says when it comes in. So this way, at least I have a heads up.
Okay, wait, you said a report comes in. We don't get the report. You're right. They just tell us, and then they come back again. And my fear always is, oh, I didn't see that last time. You have to do that now. And now you want to strangle them. It was like, okay, just tell me what you want. I will get it done. But once you start hitting me with things that you didn't mention the first time, it's like a never ending cycle. And again, a lot of, I'm sorry, what, Dave?
How can they not send you a report? I've always gotten a report.
And don't have to. Depends on the town if they want to do it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what we recommend. If you're buying, stick to a certain geographic area. Like we talked about, Brian Mann always had his 5 towns in Essex County he worked in. I usually work in the same 3 or 4 towns. You get to know people. You get to know what they want. Now, the town I'm in tomorrow, I don't usually buy there. That's one of the reasons I don't know what they're going to tell me. Because they already knocked me down for a few things. I've taken care of those. But again, now the fear is they're going to come back and go, well, we didn't notice that. So.
Can I ask a question for the group?
Absolutely.
Does anybody, like, if there was an opportunity to purchase property, if it was in a flood zone, would that stop you from purchasing it?
Okay, anybody have any thoughts on that?
I
I
would
do.
probably
I do.
avoid it.
I would avoid it.
It
I'm
depends
sorry,
on
Ernest, what
how
did
in
you,
the flood
okay,
zone it
Julie,
is.
you go first. Julie, what do you say?
I was just gonna say it would depend on where in the flood zone it is or what. I have a property that is not quite in the flood zone, but it's on the edge of it. And what I have done is I've chosen to buy flood insurance because that way, if there's heavy waters and I have issues with the basement, that was my choice. So I am spending 500 a year on that, let's say, with FEMA. But the peace of mind is worth it, and that helps for me. But I don't know if I would choose to if it were right in the middle of a flood zone where there had been a history of flooding in the last 20, 30 years.
Ernest, I think you were saying something as well.
Usually I just avoid it
Okay,
because of the insurance purposes. I just avoid it.
okay. I will buy in flood areas. It depends. Now there's varying degrees, the 500-year plan, the 100-year plan, etc. Also, I grew up in Clifton. Anybody knows the Passaic County area, Lincoln Park, Wayne, the Passaic River would overflow
Yeah.
Right,
every
right,
year in
yeah.
Lincoln Park, in places like in parts of Wayne. And I would have never bought anything in those areas because it was like clockwork. My brother lived there for about 5 years. He lucked out because his house never flooded, but he had good friends there who lived there for about 20, 25 years. And they totally had their house redone about 4 or 5 times. And then finally the state said, we're buying you out. Otherwise you will not get insurance and it will be on you. So little by little, that whole development in Wayne, and it was a nice area, whole development Wayne got shut down because it would flood out.
You would see the flooded area right off the highway. I used to work at Etna in Two Rivers Road or Two Bridges Road. I used to get off of there, and I would see the flood.
Oh, and you're talking about Fairfield Lincoln Park, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that area.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
is there concern about the resale of the property? That's the other thing, like, because I wouldn't be interested in purchasing property that's in a flood zone. I'm
Okay.
just thinking,
See, it depends now. For instance, my town, Oceanport, a lot of it is in a flood plain, but it's a very expensive area. And most of our areas got hit by Sandy. Believe it or not, I don't need flood insurance, which is simply luck on my part. When we bought the property, if you ever saw a map of Oceanport from 1900, you would see this little sliver of land that's real land. Then they did all this landfill. And those areas, you need flood insurance. My house is actually on that little sliver. So I, by the grace of God, got very lucky with that. And I shouldn't say it, I've never had any water. And yet 5 houses down on either side of me have flooded and been required. And, we were ordered evacuated during Sandy. We never left, but we were ordered to be evacuated.
and you were not impacted at all, Dave.
No, I had a couple of trees down. What was impacted was my one of the trees hit my utility and ripped out, our electrical. So it took about 8 to 10 days to get electricity and power back. But
But I could see buying if it was on the beach or something like that. People know what you're buying into, like, because it's on the shore.
Right.
But like, I'm saying like the other areas that are not literally
like a
on
bound brook that will flood.
Yeah,
all the time,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
I would really
not
need
even
to
that,
know exactly
not
how
Lodi.
often that area floods.
Yeah.
Lodi
And
floods also.
is it just the backyard? There are some ones that are in a flood zone, but I've talked to the people there, and it's true that they've only had some water come up in their backyard, but it never got within 30 feet of the house. I may take a chance there because I do have one house in Monmouth County where my backyard, it's a very long yard, and that backyard, it looks like a swimming pool, when there's been a heavy storm, but it gets nowhere near the house.
I was just saying Lodi floods also. You have that little river and it overfloods. I remember my kids used to be in a daycare there 100 years ago, and that they had floods back then too.
Right.
So
So I think it really depends on the area and how often it floods. To know if I know it continually is getting into the house, no, and that was our strategy when I was talking about Kingsburg was okay. We're willing to take the chance because usually it doesn't flood. You had a perfect storm, part in the pond with Sandy. So I'm thinking, okay, if another Sandy happened and destroyed the house, at that point we would take down the house, either sell the land to somebody who wants to lift and build a house, or we would do it. After lifting one house, I've sworn on a Bible I will never do it again. I want some of you, if I do it, I want you to come. I want you to come with a Louisville Slugger 32 ounce and bop me over the head with. Okay? Please.
We promise we'll make a embryo. Everybody will lock hands and we'll stop you. No.
Yeah, but that's a very good question. And it is something everybody should be thinking about, especially after Sandy, the flood maps were completely redone.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's one of the things that I thought about, like, because opportunities are going to be opening up, and I was just wondering if that would be a game changer if the property is actually in a flood zone, because I know for me that would impact my decision to want to purchase it.
Now, also, Flo, think about when you guys moved to Florida, a lot of Florida is below sea level. So there's so many areas there that are inland that are technically considered, riparian, and there might be an issue with that. So you'll have to look at that as well.
Okay.
Flo, I have a question for you, not necessarily on rehab. What is your office doing about the changes with the real estate, how realtors earn their commissions? I figured I would throw that out for everybody.
Yeah, well, you know what? So far, I think they're just holding the line to see what's going on. I believe that the owner has sent some letters to, I don't know, some politicians or whatever, because everything is political.
Right. Right.
But I have a feeling though that things are going to change. I do, because it's been this way a long time.
What is the issue that you guys are talking about?
Oh, okay, Julie, what happened was about a month or so ago, a court in Missouri ruled that real estate commissions, the way they're derived, that was price fixing. How they came to that, I have no idea, but they did. And they said it's cost consumers billions of dollars. So they were now saying that they have to rewrite the rules as to how real estate agents are compensated. And a lot of it had to do with, Flo, correct me if I'm wrong. If I show Julie, Flo has a listing, I show it to you, Julie, and I cannot be paid by the seller, Flo. Am I correct? Is that the theory?
So if I show a house and you actually put an offer in, I think the seller's complaining that they're paying the commission for both the buyer and on the buyer and seller side. And then the other element, and I know, and the elephant in the room is that, remember, commissions are negotiable. Like I can't say that you have to pay a 6% commission. You cannot say that. Cannot. You have to, it's negotiable.
Right. So, Julie, what they're coming to then is now the buyer will have his own agent, which has happened quite a bit anyhow. In the last 10, 15 years, the idea of buyer's agents has really grown throughout the country. When I got my license 40 years ago, buyer's agent, nobody even knew up here what it was. Some people were doing it in Florida, but very few people even knew what it was. Then it became much more common because in theory, every agent's fiduciary responsibility was to the seller. So even if Flo took the listing and I showed you the property under the old days, in theory, I was not working for you. I was working for the seller. Then they said, well, that really, then you're not being properly represented. I could see where the argument could be made. And I remember people were, again, and I have never been an active realtor. My license is for investing, but I have to take the classes, the license, all of that stuff. And I remember
my
people
real estate agent will give me a form where she signs off, and I'm the buyer's agent and I'm the seller's agent. She lets me know that ahead of time.
Right, Dave, but they're saying now that's not enough.
Okay, well, here's the issue now, because I'm getting really concerned. I've rented my apartments myself. I know what the hell goes into it. I know how much of a waste of time it can be. I know you can spend all day, schedule 5, 6 appointments, answer 80 phone calls, 79 of which are BS, and then you're sitting there all day long, and the realtor is going to say, you know what, I got to go through all this nonsense and not get paid. Guess who's going to get affected? People that are looking to rent apartments. It's gonna affect them too. It's gonna make me renting the apartments a lot more difficult. So I have a concern with that.
Exactly. And I think, like Flo said, we don't know how it's going to shake out. There's going to be changes. I know my office, there's a meeting next Tuesday where they're going to have somebody come in and talk to us about it. You know, what's going to happen with it. And I'm not sure. Now, one of the other things, Julie, does that answer your question?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
on mute, so it might take me a second to unmute, but yeah, I get the
Okay.
idea. Yeah.
Now, today, National RIA, they have meetings during the day sometimes. They had an excellent one today with David Pickron and Heather from Rent Perfect. You know, that's the group we always talk about. And I thought it was really good. I actually learned a lot. And I'm going to find out once we get the link to it, because I'm pretty sure it was recorded. Once we get the link to it, I will get that out to everybody in the group. It is well worth listening to, because David was talking about almost, Dave, what made me think of it was what you mentioned, the challenges that are coming as far as with credit reporting and how credit scores are going up, but it's so limited in scope what the people are reporting on that they basically had to go up. So you're not getting a full picture. I might not have paid bills. So many bills have been now exempted, student loans, different things, rent payments, etc. That I may show a 720 credit score, and actually I have been hardly paying bills in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Wow.
And he goes into discussion about that and the problems and the concerns, and they really, I must say, I think they just have a great program. So guys, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but if you haven't joined Rent Perfect, I really urge you. It's 95 cents. And also what I'm going to be doing with my new tenant, collecting rents. I pretty much still do it the old fashioned way. I have a couple people, but I only have one tenant who does direct deposit that goes right to our bank account. The other ones, pretty much old fashioned way. They mail me a check, my PO box, I deposit them. My new tenants are younger people, and they asked me if they could do it, you know, on the web, on the internet, etc. Rent Perfect came out with this Rent Pay. I think it's called Rent Pay. So I started researching it, looking into it, and Dave talked about it today. And that's one reason I want you guys to watch it, because you may be very interested in the service. Basically, my concern, or one of my concerns, was David wants to rent from me. He says, hey, can I do a direct deposit to you? My problem is I didn't have to give my banking information. I'm not a fan of giving my bank account information over there and putting it out on the internet.
Dave, with Zillow, all they need is your telephone number. They don't need your bank account number.
No, I know, but it gets worse. I don't want it's bad enough. People can do all kinds of things. We see more and more every day. I don't want that. Now, if I understood correctly, the Rent Perfect one, you don't. They use it as a clearinghouse. They're the only one. So if Dave is going to pay me the rent, he sends it to them, and then electronically, and you're doing it electronically. So Dave, you may set it up and they'll have your bank account number as a tenant. I don't want my tenants having my bank information.
But David, don't they get it like when your person, you deposit the check, when they get it back, doesn't it have their canceled check have your bank account number on it?
Not anymore. My bank doesn't. Some banks still do it the old fashioned way. Yes, I think that's less and less of that's being done, Julie. That's a good.
I agree with you, and I have something I do, and I don't even know if it really makes any difference, but what I do, because I wasn't sure about that, I have a checking account for the rent that comes in, and it's almost just like a front account. As soon as I get that, I move
dummy
it to the
account,
money
right.
market account, because if he were to get into that account, there'll be hardly anything in it. And I
Right.
just make it sort of like a fence.
And it's funny, I was thinking about kind of setting up a dummy account like that, and here's why. Now, David Pickron is the CEO. He's a private investigator. You know, he's the owner of all these companies, and he's up on all the cybersecurity, all this stuff. He was talking about he gets his American Express bill, and you know, he said he's, I guess, like me, not really a good bookkeeper. So as long as it's kind of in the ballpark, I'm like close enough. I don't analyze it to death, drive my wife crazy, but just not in me to do it. So he said he's noticing, you know, American, it looks a little high. Then suddenly, every month he's getting it for several months. All of a sudden, it keeps getting higher and higher. Or his Federal Express. And because I guess he has an account with Federal Express, and that's what his office, the employees use. So suddenly he gets one, finally it's $900, which is way out of whack with what they normally have. And he went in, he asked her, hey, what are you guys sending? And, you know, why is this so high? And also, we're not doing anything out of what we normally do. So again, he's a private eye. He researched it. Somebody in, was it Mississippi, had gotten his Federal Express account, and they had been shipping things to Mississippi using his Federal Express account. Now, here's the scary part of what he said. He goes, now, how do I know? Remember, they have my account. It's my information. What if they were transporting guns, drugs, whatever? And it gets caught. Somebody opens up a box that was sent by me and it has drugs in it.
Yeah, that's a headache.
That's scary. That's very scary. So, you know, on one hand, I try to make as many, and that's why I was talking to you guys about asset protection and stuff. You want to make things where there's no direct connection because, you know, there's a lot of people out there and they are smart.
Well, sometimes they don't need your information.
I'm sorry, what, Ernest?
Sometimes they don't need your information. I found my house last week in Alabama on Craigslist, and I tracked the people down in Virginia who had it on Craigslist. Okay. I had to let them know, you know, I know it's you. They took it off the listing.
Ernest, how did you find it? What made you even be on Craigslist? And my gosh, that's my property.
There was tenants, people coming in who wanted to rent the property, and my wife asked them, well, where'd you see it? Oh, I saw it on Craigslist. We don't have it listed in Craigslist. So that's when I saw they had stole all the information off of Zillow and put it on Craigslist, including the pictures.
Yep.
And I guess they were trying to get people's information. They were trying to get people's information. So they said they need that background check. So you put your information in to see if you qualify.
Okay.
So basically, they're trying to con people to get their information.
So they weren't trying to sell your house, though, were they?
They were trying to rent it, basically.
They're trying to rent your house out when it's not for rent, but they weren't.
It was for rent.
No, that's what made them find it, Julie. They'll scan through like Zillow or any of those and find, oh, Ernest is trying to rent his house. Let's put it on Craigslist, and then they get you to go on there and rent through Craigslist, thinking you're renting it from the real landlord, and you're not. You're renting it from them.
Yep,
that's happened to me also with regard.
But you would know that you wouldn't really end up having it rented by someone else, right? They've just gotten their information, right?
Well, they could either be doing it for the information, or the guy can go there, change locks, and put people in. I had it happen in Florida. House in Boynton Beach. I tracked the guy down in Orlando, and I told him very nicely he better never ever do that again.
That's happened to me with a couple of apartments I have for rent a couple of years ago. The thing with me though is that I have a very special lock on it that nobody can duplicate. It's a multi-lock.
Right.
So unless you have the code for that lock, you can't duplicate that key.
Right.
And if you did have the code, there's only certain locksmiths that can duplicate the key. So it's a flat key. It's got a whole bunch of different unique configurations on it, so nobody could duplicate that key. The only issue is when the realtors have the lockbox outside. If I'm trying to rent an apartment, that might be an issue because they'll have access to the key. But other than that, all the keys are unique.
But can I just share this with you?
Sure.
And Ernest, every time I list an apartment, I check Craigslist like every 2 or 3 days, automatic, like it's on my to-do list. Because I assume that somebody on Craigslist is going to post it. Like I just make that part of my routine, because I hate to say it, but these type of people are predators. And they just, especially like if it's like, it doesn't even have to be a nice place, but they will, if it's halfway decent, they will try to do that. And I also put out there at the bottom of my listing that this rental is not listed on Craigslist. So if they happen to do a search and they find it on both places, to give them a heads up, I annotate on the listing that this listing is not listed on Craigslist. And so they try to give them a heads up that if they do see it elsewhere, that it's not,
Yeah.
so just an
Great
idea.
idea.
Not legit.
Yeah, I do. I check it bi-weekly, but about just to make sure. But I'm down here now with different projects, so it's easy to make sure.
Right.
Plus, I have my contractors actually staying at that location while they work on other houses.
Will, let me ask you something. Are you in the police force? Are they finding more and more houses that people? I can't believe I can't think of the word. It starts with an S. Living in a house they're not supposed
Say
to
the
be
word
in.
again?
Yes, squatters you're talking about.
Squatters. I'm getting old. My God.
Oh yeah, that's daily. That's daily. That's all the time.
That's what I was concerned all the time now. Especially a place like Newark, I'm sure, right?
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, there you go.
Just about every vacant property, you'll find somebody there.
That's why if you have a vacant property, don't let it sit vacant too long. Make sure you know what's going on. Be friends with the neighbors. You want to
Right.
know everything going on.
Yep, yep. Have somebody watching it.
Well, that leads me to another question. I don't know, does anybody have actual cameras on their property at all? Does anyone have cameras?
I don't, but I'm thinking about putting it on one that I'm just finishing up now. On my other
Okay.
ones, I have them rented, but if they do go vacant from now on, I probably will.
But you
Okay.
would not keep a camera on there when it's rented, would you, Dave, or would you?
Well, not Julie, not inside, on the exterior.
And that's legal to do on the exterior, like you
Oh,
could have it
sure.
shooting out, like you'd have it shooting out to watch the front door kind of thing?
Yeah, it's like a ring. It would be like a ring with a couple, cameras on it.
Yeah,
N-
but if you're
no.
vacant, you definitely.
Now we have a guy who's scheduled, so I think next week he's gonna install cameras in the hallway, because this is the 3-family, right? So he's gonna
Okay.
do the hallway and install cameras on the outside of the property. And so I'll let you guys know how that goes. And he also shared with me that if you have cameras and you're recording the voice, you have to post a sign that says you're under surveillance or something like that. You can't record someone speaking without disclosure of that.
Hmm.
You can videotape them, but you can't, if you're recording the conversation like continually, you have to put a sign up, he said.
And Flo, this is only going in the public areas of the building. Right?
Yes, not inside of any of the units, just in the common areas and outside.
But one of the things that makes me nervous nowadays too is you always read these stories about these landlords who supposedly put a secret camera in an apartment of a young woman and things like that. And again, these guys must be creeps and whatever. But I keep thinking, what if somebody put it in there themselves to claim the landlord did that?
Well, you know what, the person who's installing the cameras, we're not installing them ourselves. He's
Right.
installing, and he's gonna have a record of where he actually
Right.
posts them. And more than likely, these are all gonna be the same brand. If the person bought a different brand or camera. And also, these will be linked to our internet, web base. Yeah, so.
Right. No, that's fine. But I'm saying if they say, hey, Will, the landlord, he must have can't come in here and secretly put a camera somewhere. In other words, I could picture in our lawsuit crazy country,
Oh, yeah.
somebody making that claim. And of course, everybody's going to think, oh, Will, what a terrible these landlords are all the same. I'm starting to get a real concern that people will do that. It's like everybody falsely accusing everybody of everything.
People do everything, yeah. And
Yeah,
it's but I think I like her idea, Flo's idea. If you have a third party put it in and they have the documentation,
Right.
it removes it from the landlord, which is great. I mean, we used to have that. I worked in a psych facility, and all the time you'd have kids accusing a counselor of sexually and you're stuck. You're right away.
Right.
The guy, it's usually a girl against a guy, and the guy is right away. He can't work in that unit, and all this investigation. And it's pretty much the same thing you're saying on a rental level.
Yeah, and being that we're going to be moving to Florida, this will allow us to be able to see if other people have other people living with them, if the property management company is doing what they're supposed to do. So it really will have a great deal of value.
You mean the property manager in Florida?
No, I'm going to have a property manager here.
Okay, because you're going to keep the property up here.
Yes, we've decided we're going to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to keep it. And I've been interviewing some property managers and everything. And so we're going to put the cameras up and stuff like that so you can watch it. Yeah.
Okay. One other thing, if everybody recalls, we have until July of 2024 for our lead paint inspections. Not everybody's diligent like Mr. Figueroa, and most of us haven't done our inspections yet.
Correct.
Yours truly.
You too.
Just want to give an update. Sin, who's a member of EMRIA, if you recall, he had done one of the focus groups. He did decide to go ahead and get his license in New Jersey. So he should be available for people. Once he gets it, we're going to let everybody know. And, I told him, I say, you could probably do a good business with the members and, if make good, give them a good deal. And you should have plenty of work from that. So he's going to be doing that. I think the jury, back to a rehab type thing, I think the jury is still out on what the government is going to do once July comes. And I guarantee you a lot of people will not have done their lead paint inspections. And not only that, the economic feasibility of doing the economics of it. For instance, if they come in on an older house and say, well, you have to do these 15 windows on this big property, just the cost of doing not the repair, but the remediation of what they're asking for, according to what the rules that are being set up in the code, is going to be very cost prohibitive. It reminds me of years ago. Gosh, it's back in 1980s and 1990s. I remember New Jersey had passed a law that all gas stations had to put in new gas tanks. Does everybody remember that? Underground storage. The average cost per gas station was like $250,000. Now, especially back then, you had a lot of small guys who had these gas stations. They couldn't afford the $250,000. So they pretty much ignored it. And then the state waived it after they got so much pressure because it became, okay, very few people did it. Now what? And it was funny because the people who did do it were kind of ticked off because they're saying, I put in that, I paid $250,000. And now you're saying, in effect, I really didn't have to. I am very curious if something similar is going to happen with the lead paint.
Dave,
I wouldn't rely on it, but I am curious.
I forgot, is that lead paint, is that a federal mandate or that's New Jersey state?
New Jersey state.
Okay.
All rental units. Now, we have a lot of adult 55 and older properties, and we, under the current law, or what the past law, were exempt. It was only for homes where there might be a child living there. but
Mm.
because children couldn't live in the 55 and older, they were exempt from the law. Under the new law, they are no longer exempt.
Okay.
So, for what it's
You know,
worth.
if I was a betting person, I think this is gonna, I don't think it's gonna hold. I think there's such an issue with housing, people want, so I think that it's not going to, and I think it's political. I think it'll blow over.
I
That's
hope
what I
you're
think.
right. I hope you're,
do.
and again, now, for instance, Dave, how long ago did you have yours done?
I had mine done, I think around June. I only did one property. I haven't done the other property, the one in New
Okay.
Brunswick. I do have to do that one. That one is actually the rub test.
Right.
And I'm planning on doing that January, February. It's more difficult there because I just have different tenants there. But I would like to agree with you, but being that the penalties are pretty substantial and it's a serious revenue generator, I don't think they're gonna let that one go, especially since when you consider it affects kids.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you
but
know what? Like, you remember they came out in February to inspect? I think they came out here in February, and the guy came here, the 5 year state inspection,
that's it, right.
and the guy came and he said I needed a couple of smoke detectors and he wanted the door to be where it can lock automatically. And he said, and I got a letter and they said he would be back and he never came back. And I did all the stuff. I'm running around like a nut trying to make sure getting all the stuff done. And then I called the state and the lady says, oh, I don't know when they'll be back. We're super backlogged. We have we don't know when. And I'm like, you don't know when he's going to be back? I thought he was going to be back in like 90 days.
Right.
It's what,
The thing with
November.
those inspectors is that there's a lot of turnover in that business.
Right.
They quit a
Crazy.
lot, they get fired a lot.
Right.
Maybe they don't do their
Two-
jobs, so
Dave, 2 points to what you said. What if they say, okay, you didn't do it, Dave. Now this property is uninhabitable, so your people have to move out. Now they've displaced a tenant. Or if they try to fine you, there's going to be such an uproar because those people are going to contact their local state representative, who are the ones who give them campaign contributions. So you may be right. It's going to be, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. But again, back in the 1980s when they tried it, they finally because remember, lead paint originally was 1980s. There were going to be all these fines. You had to do all these things. And they quietly kind of ignored it because they realized this was around 88, 89 when the market was softening again. They suddenly realized nobody was doing it. You start finding these people are closing down. You're going to have people nowhere to live. And so they kind of put it to the side and now they brought it back again. I don't know, but Dave, here's my other question for you. I can't. So is that good for 3 years or 5 years? The lead safe.
I think it was 3 years or unless somebody moves.
Okay, so even if your tenant is there, is beginning year 4, the same tenant is in there, they have to come back again. That I think is going to be a big problem as time goes on, because people are going to really get furious with this.
Right.
But Dave, and Dave, both Daves, like how many you living in Jersey for crying out loud? Like all these houses are freaking old. So I'm just saying, like, if you look at the numbers, you're like, I hate to say it, but like, how many houses does this impact? What percentage you think?
A lot.
I don't know, 80%.
Think about a town like Newark.
Oh, forget about it. And even Woodbridge, the houses here are all, I mean, it's very, I mean, there's some new construction, but very, very, like, this is Jersey. It's not, that's what I'm saying. The numbers are overwhelming.
And they're not using common sense. Under the old law, they finally kind of said, okay, look, if you've got molding that's chipping and all that, it's got lead in it, remove it. And that's what I've always advised people to do. Just rip out that molding, put in new moldings, and you should be fine. And then they said also you could use a lead blocking paint. That was acceptable. Now they're claiming, well, that might be acceptable. We're not sure. And also, by the way, the reason we come back after every 5 years, this is what they told me in the class I took on it. Well, you have to understand, things rub, things wear out. So as you keep opening and shutting that door, 3 years from now, you'll have made particles again that lead is now being exposed to the air. And they're going to make it
realistically,
work.
realistically, that could happen, especially with the windows, but the amount of wear coming out from the door and the windows is so minuscule.
Right.
You'd actually have to be there inhaling it for it to affect you. But again, it's designed to prevent kids from getting lead poisoning, which is it's ridiculous. But
Right. Well, I'll tell you, Dave,
inspectors don't agree with it.
I took the renovation. I didn't take the licensing. I took to be approved as a contractor for lead paint remediation. Quite frankly, the class was stupid, but I took it. It was nothing like we thought. Me and another contractor was nothing like we thought it would be. But they, at the end, gave us basically the lowdown. They took a simple window and turned it into the biggest process you've ever seen of what you had to do. So my thinking was, well, it's quite simple. Just rip out the old window, put in a vinyl replacement with all the things you have to go through. But that's still not enough. Because when you remove that window, it could create lead. So therefore, you have to still do the same process is how they told it to us. And, you know, you're yesing them to death, but we're thinking, this is insane. You guys apparently have never done this for a living. And the guys teaching the class, let's just say they work for companies that will benefit from having this law. You know, it's the whole thing like Congress. They pass a law knowing the companies that will have to abide by it don't know how to enforce it. So then the guy who created the law leaves the government and goes and signs up with the private company, showing you how to beat the legislation that he had written. It happens all the time, and it's absolutely a disgrace, but that's another story.
Well, here's the thing. You have an apartment, it's vacant, you clean it up, you paint it, it's perfect. There's no lead problems anywhere, but since we said it's an old house, it's got lead paint underneath there. So a new tenant comes in, they're moving furniture, and a rack hits the molding on the door. Now you got a scratch on there. Guess what? Now you fail.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And guys, just so you know, he's not kidding. They talk about, they were showing us samples of stuff. We're thinking, you got to be kidding. You have to be kidding. It's going to be very interesting.
But the thing that blows your mind is that you have, like, you know, I hate to use the term, like, you know, slumlords who's got roofs leak, you know, tile hanging from
Plain
the roof,
fields, plain
you know,
fields.
but this guy has a little scratch, you know, where something banged on the, you know, the
Right.
door, and it's like, you failed.
When you guys were growing up, didn't your parents tell you not to chew on the window panes, for crying out loud? I mean, this is so silly. Flo, but what you mentioned before about the floodplain, I'm actually more concerned about buying properties in towns that have the stricter rules about the lead testing. You know, there's the visual test, the glove test, I think they call it, right, Dave? And then the one you mentioned, the rub test. So all the ones that have a rub test, I would seriously avoid buying.
Really? You would? You really would?
I wouldn't
would
buy in a
impact your
rub
decision?
test to go through that aggravation unless I'm ripping
Right.
everything out.
But what's to say a
Right.
place that has lesser law isn't gonna turn to what you're calling the rub test? I mean, that can change too. We just don't know how crazy
Right,
they're all
but
gonna
at
get.
the moment, and right now, it's more of the urban areas that have the stricter test. It seems like the ones that are more, quote, suburbia, they don't have as strict. Some of them are going with a site. Dave, now Woodbridge, is that a the rub test?
I don't know about Woodbridge, but no, New Brunswick is
Metuchen or New Brunswick?
Metuchen is a visual.
Okay. See, a visual one, I don't, can any of you spot lead, by the way?
Nope,
The only time I
no
know
idea.
lead is
No.
if I'm looking at a lead pencil.
yeah.
I went to college. I can tell that's lead.
Now,
But
Dave,
anything else, I mean,
Especially when it says lead pencil on it.
yeah.
it's
Don't
usually
give away my
graphite, guys.
secret.
It's usually graphite. You're okay. Hey, listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just silly. It
But who
really
do I
is.
call? Who do I call, like, at a township to say, how are you gonna evaluate lead? Is that what do you say? And
Probably the code, I would say the code official, fire official, either
So what-
fire or code official.
And what am I asking? How you're gonna evaluate
They'll
lead?
say, in our town, what test is the test for now you could also go online. We had sent it to everybody I don't know if it's been updated, but the one we sent everybody, gosh, at least half a year ago, showed what each town, what test that they were requiring. Now, the other thing you have to know, I got a call from one of our members today, and he's in Neptune, and he was asking me about these laws. And Neptune will allow you to either bring in your own state licensed lead inspector, or they will do it as well for $300.
$300.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not cheap. Dave, what did you pay?
I think it was $200. I think the 4 apartments in New Brunswick, I'm sorry, the 4 apartments in Metuchen cost me $1,000.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really $1,000 for you to $250 each.
Wow.
So
It's not cheap.
I told him most importantly, because he thinks for now he's probably going to go with the town inspector. I said, most importantly, find out which test they do, because if it's the test where they rub it and then they send it out for a sample, I'm sure it's going to be a lot more than $300, because that $300 is just for the inspector to come out, and then you'll have to pay the lab test.
Right.
So,
Overactive.
remember this when I tell you they start talking to you about affordable housing.
What do you mean?
Well, every politician tells you they want to keep housing affordable.
Oh,
But,
I see.
I
But
mean,
they're
it's a
making
cost
everybody-
of doing business. So like any other business, you add it to your cost, which increases what you have to charge your customer.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. On a
So let me-
happier
Dave-
note, I'm sorry.
Dave, let me just relate my my meeting I had last week with Dave, the maintenance guy. I did some maintenance in my house last weekend. Something that I recommend everybody do, something that we all take for granted. Probably no one here, or very few people here, have thought about doing this. But your dryer vent line, that's got to get cleaned. The
Absolutely.
amount of lint that builds up in there will shock you. Now, they do sell vent line cleaning tools. You can get that at Home Depot. I've had one for a while, I guess, and you could also use a vacuum to vacuum that out. You need to vacuum the dryer and the entire line going out. Now, that was one of the jobs that Dave, the maintenance guy, did last week. The other job that Dave, the maintenance guy, did is another thing that we all take for granted. You have um, the water lines going to your washer and dryer. Now, technically, they're supposed to last about 10 years. I had mine in my property about 20 years. It When I went to remove it, it broke. So I had a little bit of a flood going out. But it took me a while to clean it up, take it off and clean it up. But these are 2 simple maintenance issues that can cause great damage. The vent line not being clean can lead to fires.
Yep.
And the washing machine hose lines, when I went to adjust it, it just snapped right off. It was that bad. So 2 simple maintenance issues. I'm sure we all take for granted, which are really relatively simple to do.
Right. Leading cause of house fires, or one of them, is the dryer vent. And I'm glad you mentioned it. I had all ours done about 2-3 years ago. I'm probably going to have it done again for all our rental properties.
You can
Who do I
easily do
hire?
it twice a year.
Who do
I'm
I
sorry, what,
hire
Dave?
to do that?
I said you could easily do it twice a year. It
Right.
does build up relatively quickly.
Yep.
Now, do I hire someone, like I have a tenant who is very proactive to keep things clean, and I bet that they would even do it.
As long as
Right.
they know what they're doing, because you got to make sure that they hook back up the vent properly.
Right.
Because a lot of people do it and then they don't hook up the vent, or they don't have it attached properly, and then it comes loose, and that's a whole nother problem. Dave mentioned too the washer and dryer line. You may, on that washer, you may want to make sure you also have a good shutoff valve on it.
Yeah.
That you can shut that off when not in use, because that is another main, that and a hot water tank are your 2 main reasons that a house will have a flood.
I'm sorry, so a water line goes right into the washing machine and you're saying,
You
Have a
know, a lot of
shut-off.
times you go, especially in an older house, you'll either have a very old shut off, the round shut off
right,
instead of the lever, and
right,
they go bad, and you're much better off with the lever one because you can shut it off. And also, if you have a leak and that thing's spouting water and you don't have a shut off right there, and then you have to go find the shut off somewhere, you could have a real expensive
flooding.
water problem.
Okay, great.
And that's the other thing, guys. We try to replace those valves every once in a while, and when we do, we make sure we put in a good quality one.
So
Some
who do-
some of them times now we use the shark bites. Some of them are pretty good. I would never use a shark bite inside a wall, however.
What's a shark
Does
bite?
everybody know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what a shark bite is.
Okay, shark bite are new plumbing fixtures. You used to have to solder copper tubes and shut off valves, T valves, etc. Now a company came out, they're called Shark Bite. They're compression fitted, and they can work really well if put on properly. But, talking to professional plumbers, I would never put them inside a wall because if they break, I want to make sure the connections are soldered, etc. But like if you're doing ones under the let's say a bathroom, you may want to use a shark tank if you have to cut off the old one because it's frozen and it's bad. So instead of going crazy, you put on a shark bite. And even if you have a plumber do it, it should cost you less.
So if I wanted to have someone check the washer dryer lines and the cleaning out the lint filter, or the whatever you call the dryer line, will a plumber do that part too?
The dryer vent possibly. There are companies that come out kind of rotor that, shall we say, but usually not a plumber. I know by me, I see guys who have companies and signs. The last guy charged me a lot, but I must say he did a really good job. And Dave mentioned you could buy one of those kits at Home Depot. I went out and bought one. I have not used it yet, but thank you, Dave, for mentioning it. That should give me a kick in the butt to go out and do it, because I would like to try it myself and see how hard or easy it is to do.
You could use a shop vac and just vacuum it out inside the house.
If you can get in far enough, but I wanted
Right.
something that I could really extend because some of mine run pretty long.
Right.
Event. If it's only a couple feet, yeah.
How do you know how long it is? It's from the machine to the wall, or where is it?
It depends on the house, honey. I have some that run like over 10, 12 feet and other ones that run like 2 feet.
But it's going from the machine to where the wall, the vent
The
is. in
back
wall?
of your the back of your dryer vent?
Yes,
That's what we're talking about.
and you do it all the way to go to the outside.
And it vents out to the outside. You always got that vent to the outside.
That's
And
how
while
far.
we can't tell you how far it goes, every house is different.
So you're taking it off of the back of the dryer and doing it that way, or you're going it from the outside in too?
You can do both.
Both. Generally, you want to get especially right by the dryer because that's where the fire will come. And you want to go outside and check and make sure that the vent is now blocked by all that lint. I've gone to some of my houses and said, oh my gosh, the air can't even get through because the lint has totally blocked it.
And you can see that from the outside.
Yeah, if you're looking at the vent, you'll see it. You can't miss it. It's
Okay.
blocked.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Before I
ask
forget,
that-
yes.
Can I ask Dave Figueroa a question?
Sure.
Dave, quick question, and this is off the beaten path a little bit, but the tenant that you evicted, did they have renter's insurance? Did they have a renter's insurance policy?
No.
Okay. And was that on when you were evicting them, was that one of the reasons for the eviction on your eviction complaint?
So the reason for the eviction was that he didn't pay rent. He stopped
Okay,
paying
and
rent.
you didn't add the fact that they didn't have what they would actually, the question I should ask was were they required to have the renter's insurance?
No, I don't have that in my leases. Legally, you can, but no, I
Okay.
did not have that.
Okay. I was
So
just
you're trying to kind of ask if he's in violation of the lease was part of the reason for the eviction. Is that what you're kind of
right.
asking?
I was wondering when you went to court, if in addition to the non-payment of rent, was it also a not
Yeah.
complying with having the rent lease also a reason for the eviction.
No, but these violations require a 30-day notice. And again, regular mail, certified return receipt, just be able to prove to a judge what the lease violation is.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that I'm talking about is the same tenant I've been trying to get rid of. And we go to court this week, and it's for habitually late and non compliance with having the renters agreement. And Michael Murray had sent her letters, telling her she needed to provide it, and she hadn't. And I was just wondering if the judge even factored that in when you went, but that wasn't your case. You didn't have that.
No, but remember the presentation I did, one of the reasons you can evict a tenant is for habitually late rent payments.
Yeah.
That is in the regulations.
Yeah, the only fly in my ointment is that she's a Section 8 tenant, and now Section 8 is paying 100% of her rent, but I have to give the money to Michael Murray. I can't take, I have to give it to him, because you can't take money after you file a complaint for being habitually late. So he's been collecting. I've been giving him money since July. Like every rent payment has been going to him, because you can't. But they're paying 100% of her rent now. But she didn't pay for February, March, April, or May. She still hasn't, paid it. Yeah. But she also has not complied with getting the insurance policy, which was also a complaint. And I was just wondering if a judge even, because you just don't know how they're gonna behave. But that's good. True. Thank you.
He'll probably consider it, Flo, but the main one will be the rent, the habitually late and non-payment. Flo, is it a live court date or is it on Zoom?
No, this is in person. This is the second one. Yeah, because the first one, she didn't show up.
Was the one she didn't show up Zoom, or was that in person?
That was in person.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Let us know how you make out. I'll be curious.
So maybe she won't show up to this one either. She'll save you, she'll do you a favor.
Yeah, but think about it, Dave. Even if she doesn't show up, then Flo will have to appear another time.
Yeah.
That's the insanity of it.
Well, you know what the thing though is that I don't think she's going to be able to pull that, because the first time she actually showed up, it was after everything was over, and she said she was in the hospital. So the judge had already ruled against her, and now they're Michael Murray requested a new trial date, thinking, okay, so now we're going through this whole exercise all over again.
In other words, they set aside the verdict and you're having another trial, though.
Yes.
You'll have to, even if you win, you'll have to go back to court again. That's the new law.
Why do you go back if you won?
No, I won't have to go back to court after. If the judge rules against her, then you can what Michael is going to explain to the judge is that he wants to limit her appeal, because she's already this is her second
default
appeal.
Okay, we know the appeal, but once you win, the law requires you to go back, and he is going to have to question you about whether everything was done properly, unless there's something I don't know.
Oh no, this is that one. This is the one where right. This is that case where we go and he's if they
I'm surprised the lady didn't voluntarily, because I'm assuming if she loses, she gets kicked out of Section 8, right?
No, would you like to hear the funny thing? She moved, her son now moves there with his girlfriend, so now they're hanging out, so they're just having a nice party. So the son, she moved her, he's an adult, so he's there, his girlfriend is there.
But then these are all the classic signs of a professional tenant. A professional tenant will have, a professional tenant will have a court date set. They will purposely miss that time frame. They will go at the end of the day, 3:30, and reschedule. They'll say, yeah, I had this issue, that issue, whatever, and they'll reschedule. Now they can do that another time. It's going to get to a point where the judge will say, okay, no more. It's up to the judge to say no more cancellations.
Right, but what I'm saying is, Flo, if you win, default, everything, she's gone, she's history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then doesn't that get her kicked out of the Section 8 program for being?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that's why I'm saying I'm surprised she didn't move or get out, because now she's going to lose her voucher.
Yes, she certainly will. That's right.
She's at the point where she doesn't care right now. She's
Yeah,
one of those.
Yeah, she's
Well, I have a similar situation, but it's with a veteran, and he's habitually late for the past year, but the soldier on pays half of it,
Right.
So
but he's
question
still
for
2
you
months
guys.
behind.
The stuff Dave brought up about the vent and the pipes and all that. Is there a list anywhere? So let's say you have a new investor who never even owned a home, and just sort of maintenance things that you want to keep up with once you have a tenant in, because sometimes you lose track of all that because there's someone's in there.
Not that I know of, but that's a very good idea, Julie. Maybe we'll work on that.
You know, you could call
I'm
it,
sure you can find, I'm sure you
maintenance
can
list
find
for dummies.
maintenance lists online.
Right. But
Yeah,
it's something maybe we'll put right on our website so people know. That is a very good idea, Julie.
Can
Yeah.
I add a couple of maintenance ideas that I came up with
yes.
this department? Two issues, again, can cause a major headache. Depending on what type of shower valve you have, if it's a Moen valve, I think it was $18. Take off the nail, the head, pull it out. Now, depending on how long they've been there, it may take a little bit of time to wrestle it out. But the Moen valves are very good. They last for a very long time. But once they go fast. And then it's an issue because you'll have all that water spraying out. Now, the other issue that I've determined that I want to do on a maintenance basis also involves water, and that is the fill valve in the toilet. It's a 20-minute job, guys. I think it's maybe $25 to buy it at Home Depot. It's a 20-minute job. Disconnect it, the water line, turn the water off, disconnect the water line, unscrew it, pull it out, put one in, screw it in, and screw the water line in. But these two issues can cause a massive amount of damage as far as maintenance is concerned. And they're so inexpensive and so easy that I've done probably most of them within the past year. But it's almost like every time now that I'm going to rent an apartment, these are two items that I'll look at and I might consider replacing. Very simple and very inexpensive, but they can cause you a headache.
Yep, Dave, I can second that. I just paid about over $300 on a water bill for one of our tenants where we're responsible because it comes with the town. And his toilet was, I sent my plumber over there. It turned out that there was a very slow, the seal wasn't working properly, so it kept refilling, and it cost us over $300 plus $150 for the plumber.
So if you had done this fill valve thing, then it would have been okay. Is that what you're saying?
Would have been about $25. And again, a lot of times, especially if you're in a hard water area, that flap, when it goes up and down, all you need is for to calcify a little bit, and it doesn't fully sit properly on the bottom of the tank. So water will be constantly seeping into your toilet.
Which means
And that can add up dramatically, especially if you don't get we don't get water bills. We get them by the quarter from this town. So we didn't know about it. And, it happens.
That's when the toilet flushes by itself and nobody thinks about that. That means you have a leak. I thought you meant to replace the valve in the back of the toilet, not the one on top of the tank, but I thought he meant the
He
one in the
means
back.
inside, so he means inside the tank.
Oh, you meant inside. Okay.
The flap, the one they call it the ball cock, and it goes up and down. And
yeah, ours cost about $500 because somebody's toilet kept on flushing. That's how they can tell there's a leak. Or you buy some dye, you throw it in the back of the tank and let it sit, and if it'll come out, you'll see the leak. Then you may not hear it, you may not see it until you put dye in the back, and that's how you find them.
Yep.
Well, that leads me to the next question then, because does anyone charge their tenant for water? Like
most of my tenants pay this particular property the way, because it's a city water thing,
right?
That unfortunately the way it worked out, we had to pay it. So, and usually it's not that much, so it's not been a big deal, but all of a sudden I got nailed with it.
My tenant pays it, but I get the bill and I pay it, and then I get reimbursed. I send them the bill and they reimburse me.
Mine's a 4-family, so it's not individual.
Right. So this is
I
one
pay
of the
water bill
things
with no
that
problem.
George Antone doesn't mention when he tells everybody to get into debt.
Get it? Get? What do you mean?
Dave,
Right?
don't get me started because yeah,
What do you
you
mean?
see
What do
that?
you mean?
What, Julie?
What do you mean?
It's an inside joke.
You mean about multifamilies, kind of?
No.
Oh.
What Sue was saying was with the multifamily though, she has the 4-family, whatever, each one, she has to get the bill because it's not separated. There's not separate utility there for the water. Okay, before I forget, I just on a happier note for tonight, I hope everybody saw we sent out our first email blast for the Christmas/holiday party, which will be Thursday, December 7th. Please look at it. It's free for our members and their spouses. A guest who's not a spouse, that would be $25 if they want to come. It's going to be a buffet. There's going to be games, prizes, etc. Also, what we're looking to do, I didn't put it in the blast yet, but it will be going out. You're the first to know. We're asking people either to bring a can of food. We want to make a donation to a food bank.
Oh,
Or
great.
want to bring a toy for tot type situation. That would be
Excellent.
appreciated. And we're going to local charities. We're also making a donation on behalf of all of you at MRIA for a homeless coalition in Ocean County that are buying 250 sleeping bags because apparently these folks sleep outside in the winter.
Wow.
And we're buying, we're donating towards the sleeping bags that they need to buy for these folks.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's great, Dave. That's really great because you could always use
Yeah,
a sleeping
we were trying to find a worthwhile charity to give to, so we thought that would be good. Let's see what else. So, also, does everybody know what a dirty Santa or a white elephant is?
I know a white elephant, yes.
Okay, it's a game we're looking to play that night. We're going to ask everybody to buy a gift. $10, $15, $20, nothing expensive. Whoever wants to participate, you don't have to. We will be in a circle and the toys are put, the gifts, I see Flo smiling. She must have played this.
I have.
They go in the middle and then you pick a number and you go in the order of your number and who's number 1 picks from the pile. Then number 2 will come up and they could either steal the gift that the first person took and it goes around and it's a lot of fun if you've never played it. And husbands generally look at their wives and say, what am I supposed to take? It's really a lot of fun to play. So we're thinking about doing that, and we're going to play a couple other games that we're planning out too. So it should be a lot of fun.
Now, Dave, the way I've seen it done was you can either buy a gift or you bring something from your house that, like people do the one where you don't even buy anything. You bring something from your house you never wanted. It could be an old.
It's really up to you. We're fine with it. It's more the fun of it. Again, that's why it's not expensive. I will tell you this. You folks have, if you recall, I had in April, I had my friend Paul Lajenovic down in Red Bank, and he has spoken to us a couple times. So he's the fellow who wrote the book Stock Market Investing for Dummies. Okay.
Right.
Paul was doing that for his Christmas party one year. I had never played the game. My wife wasn't going with me. They told me to buy a gift. Like I thought they meant like a spoof gift. This was back when there were video stores. I bought this really dumb movie video store. It was a movie you never heard of. I didn't know. So I bought the gift and we're sitting there. Everybody puts it in. There's probably about 15 of us. And everybody starts making fun of that gift. Like that was the dog in the crew. And I'll never forget, the guy next to me looked at me, goes, what idiot would bring that? And I said, I know. Can you believe somebody was dumb enough to bring that? And it was me.
That's great.
So, but I learned. The next year I took my wife and she had gotten a teapot, and apparently that was the one gift all the women wanted. So I was mostly watching the husbands when they were told to go get that gift.
That's funny.
At the end, but it was a lot of fun. So, that will be December 9th. So please get when you have an opportunity. We'd love to have everybody there. You could sign up online. Again, it's free for members and their spouses.
December
Dave,
7th.
it's
You said
December
9th.
seventh, right?
Dave,
December
7th.
7th, Thursday, December 7th.
Right.
And
Okay,
it'll be at the Holiday Inn in Clark.
December 7th. Okay.
Let's see if there's anything
Yeah,
else
my
I need to
birthday-
mention tonight.
I'll start my birthday celebration early.
Yep.
And
I think we all
tomorrow,
need a
the
little
Jersey
Christmas.
Girls. The Jersey
Oh,
Girls.
I'm sorry.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, Flo, my apologies. Flo, you have the floor.
Yes, so please join us tomorrow. We have our Jersey Girls monthly meeting, and we have a special guest. She's a woman who flips properties and very passionate. She's going to do a great presentation. So please come and join us tomorrow, men and women.
Just go on the
I believe
website.
our meeting starts at 7, right?
Yes, 7.
For 7. Yep. So
Just
please
go on
come
the
tomorrow
website
and
to
join us.
find it. Just go on the website to find it to sign up.
Yeah, you should have gotten an email, Juliana. Just go online and sign up.
Okay.
And you get the link, same as tonight. Okay, does anybody have anything else? No? If not, I want to wish everybody a good night. Once again, I hope everybody had a healthy and joyful Thanksgiving. And we hope to see you tomorrow night for the Jersey Girls. And then next week, hope to see you at the Christmas/holiday party. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Have a good
everybody.
night. Good night.